Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're demystifying institutional design. Think of this as, well, quite literally, an architectural blueprint for a corruption resistant machine. We're looking at exactly how to build public organizations from the ground up so that they're highly efficient, practically foolproof, and completely corruption resistant. Let's get right into it.
Here is a quick look at our agenda. First, the mandate foundation. Second, structure and job roles. Third, policy-driven recruitment. Fourth, frameworks and financial governance. And finally, oversight and future-proofing.
Section 1. The Mandate Foundation. The core principle. So, the absolute bedrock, the single most important rule of any public institution, is that every single function has to originate from a clearly defined mandate. A mandate must spell out its purpose, the exact services delivered to the public, its legal authority, and the expected outputs. But hey, pay close attention to that last point there. Boundaries. Defining exactly what an institution must not do is absolutely crucial. Establishing those strict boundaries right at the very foundation, that is exactly how you prevent ad hoc expansion and stop political interference before it even gets a chance to start. Okay, let's dive into this cascade effect. You see, the mandate directly dictates the organizational functions. Those functions determine the precise processes. From there, the processes break down into actionable tasks, and finally, those tasks define the actual job roles. It's a strict top-down flow. By following this exact path, a single mandate directly dictates every single human capital need without any duplication or bloated bureaucracy. Section 2. Structure and job roles. Mandate-aligned design. Now that we've got our foundation laid, we need to frame the walls of our institution. But here is a critical question I want you to think about. How do we actually prevent political interference in daily workflows? Seriously, how do we stop leaders from making arbitrary decisions or, creating redundant jobs just to hire their friends? Well, the answer is a RACI matrix. It's this brilliant framework that defines exactly who is responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed for every single workflow. When you map out processes this clearly and combine them with strict workload analysis and man-hour calculations, you completely remove the guesswork. It creates a rigid, highly scientific and mathematical basis for both recruitment and budgeting. There's literally no room for favors here, only math. And because of that scientific approach, every single job has to be incredibly specific. We're talking a clear purpose statement, explicit duties, required skills, expected outputs, key performance indicators, reporting relationships, and even the exact tools they're going to use. Look, these aren't just boring HR formalities. These rigid descriptions actually remove personality from the equation entirely. They become the sole, objective foundation for performance evaluations, promotions, and disciplinary actions. Section 3. Policy-driven recruitment. Fair and transparent. So, have you ever wondered how a truly fair hiring process actually works behind closed doors? It's time to bring in the human element. Here is the golden rule, and it's a massive one. Recruitment must be policy-driven, not personality-driven. This is an absolute, undeniable rule if you want to stop corruption, nepotism, and cronyism dead in their tracks. The process has to rule above all else. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how this quantitative matrix guarantees absolute fairness and auditability throughout an employee's entire life cycle. Specific scoring categories are tied directly to specific outcomes. So technical skills, strictly scored for recruitment. Behavioral competencies, measured during annual reviews. Output quality and quantity. Those strictly dictate promotions. And timeliness and compliance govern contract renewals. Everything is measured and everything is completely transparent. And that objective approach extends right to the interview panel itself. A totally foolproof panel requires a chairperson, usually a senior official, a subject matter expert to test technical skills, an HR representative, and optionally, an external observer. But here is the critical safeguard. To maintain total transparency, every single member of this panel must sign confidentiality agreements and conflict of interest declarations before they even sit down in the room. No exceptions. Section 4. Frameworks and financial governance. Operating systems. Okay, so we've built the walls, we've hired the staff fairly, now we're installing the operating systems of our institution. And I absolutely cannot stress this enough. Every single action must be documented. If it's not on paper, or strictly speaking in a digital log, it simply did not happen. Creating an impenetrable digital audit trail is literally the ultimate defense mechanism for any public organization. Just look at this massive list of mandatory documentation. Recruitment files, interview scoring sheets, financial approvals, procurement files, policy amendments, the list goes on. The collective purpose here isn't just to drown people in bureaucratic paperwork. Not at all. It's about aggressively protecting the institution from manipulation. When you have version control, digital timestamps, access logs, and strict approval tracking, you create a system where corruption simply has nowhere to hide. And all that rigorous documentation directly impacts the money. Let's contrast arbitrary budgeting with mandate-tied adjustments. Arbitrary, politically motivated budget changes just lead to organizational bloat and, eventually, total collapse. In a foolproof institution, budget changes are strictly tied to reality. Verifiable workload changes, precise man-hour analysis, inflation indexes, and actual regulatory needs. That is the only way to guarantee long-term financial sustainability. Section 5. Oversight and future-proofing. Preserving the system. A healthy institution has to outlive its founders, right? By tracing records from day one project documentation to year one annual reports to year 5 policy archives, all the way down to year 10 major reform decisions, we preserve that vital institutional memory. Rigorously archiving these historical records over time ensures that future generations of leaders don't waste time and taxpayer money just reinventing the wheel. Now, to ensure the institution doesn't decay over time, it needs robust, built-in oversight. We're talking mandatory internal and external audits, a dedicated compliance unit, monitoring and evaluation teams, and a strict policy review cycle every 2 to 3 years. These aren't just watchdogs trying to catch mistakes. These mechanisms actually ensure the institution naturally evolves and adapts to changing national needs without ever losing its core identity. And this brilliantly illustrates how we pull the entire blueprint together into a modern context: digital transformation. Step 1 is workflow automation. Step 2 is implementing digital HR systems. Step 3 is e-procurement to really secure that supply chain. And step 4 is setting up live KPI dashboards. By fully digitizing these processes, you lock in every single rule, mandate, and policy we've discussed today. It effectively reduces human error and the opportunity for manipulation to absolute zero. As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to think about the real world for a second. Look at the public institutions around you right now. Are they truly driven by a strict, measurable mandate, or are they just driven by personality and politics? Understanding this blueprint completely changes how you view governance, doesn't it? Thank you so much for joining me to explore this concept today. Keep asking questions, keep looking for the structure behind the scenes, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.